Welcome to Life Happens When It Matters. I'm your host, Adele Williams, founder of American Financial Pathways. If you're looking for financial conversations that are practical, honest, and rooted in real life, not financial jargon, you come to the right place. Every week, we'll take one financial topic and break it down into simple, meaningful steps that you can apply to your own life. Because financial confidence isn't built overnight, it's built one decision at a time. So let's get started. Before we begin today's conversation, I'd like to speak directly to those of you who may have just found this podcast. Maybe this is the very first episode you're listening to because someone shared it with you. Or you searched it online for financial questions and this episode happened to appear. And your first thought was, I think I'm already behind. They're already on episode 5. I probably need to start back at episode 1 to understand what's going on. I don't have time for that. If that's what you're thinking, let me stop you right there. You're not behind. In fact, there is no wrong place to begin your financial journey. Every episode of this podcast is designed to stand on its own. Today's episode may actually be exactly the one you needed to hear. You can always go back and listen to the earlier episodes. You may discover that you've already mastered some of those steps, or you may find that that's exactly where you need to be. That's the beautiful thing about financial journeys. No two people begin in the same place. Some people are opening their first bank account, while others are working to improve their credit. Some are just learning how to budget for the first time, while others are preparing to buy their first home. We're all working towards the same destination. We're just entering the path from different places. So wherever you're joining us today, welcome. I'm glad you're here. Now today's episode is going to be a little different. Normally, we take one financial topic, spend our time unpacking it together, and we'll continue doing that. In fact, next episode, we're going to begin our first official learning pathway as we dive into banking basics. But before we start the journey, I realized something. I've been inviting you to walk this path with me without ever showing you the entire trail, and it made me think about something. Whenever I go hiking, I don't just step onto a trail without first looking at a map. I'd like to see where it begins, where it ends, and what I can expect along the way. This helps me understand the journey before I ever take my first step. And I realize I've been inviting you to join me without ever showing you that map. So today, I'll pull back that curtain. I want to show you where we're going. Because once you know where we're headed, every step has more meaning, I promise. I want to start by sharing why this podcast exists and how everything fits together to help you become more financially confident. Because once you understand the pathway, every episode after today will make even more sense. And I think you'll see that this has never been about creating another financial podcast. It's about creating a place where you can learn at your own pace, without feeling overwhelmed or without feeling judged, and without feeling like you have to know everything before you begin. So how did all this begin? Honestly, it didn't even begin with a podcast. It didn't begin with a website. And it certainly did not begin with the idea of writing guidebooks. That was the last thing on my mind. It began with one simple question. Where do I start? When I first became interested in learning about personal finance, I did what most people do. I opened my browser, I searched online, I watched videos, listened to podcasts, I read articles. I was excited to learn. But it didn't take long before I started feeling discouraged. Almost every resource I found seemed to assume that I already understood the basics. People were talking about things like investment portfolios, capital gains, compound returns, asset allocation, retirement plans. I know. I said this podcast wasn't going to use financial jargon, didn't I? But you get my point. Now, those creators were sharing really valuable information. There was absolutely nothing wrong with what they were teaching. The problem was, it wasn't what I needed at that moment. Even with my banking background, those conversations made me feel like a kindergartner who accidentally walked into a college economics class. I simply wasn't there yet. It wasn't the information, it was the timing. What I needed and what I was hearing just didn't match. I wasn't trying to build an investment portfolio. I sure wasn't trying to understand retirement plans. I was too young for that. I was simply trying to understand the basics, and I needed someone to explain finances in plain language. The more I listened, the more I found myself pausing the videos, looking up words I didn't understand, then looking up the words that they used to explain those words. Eventually, I just closed my browser, skipped the podcast on my phone, or simply just went back to listening to my music in my car, which seemed like the easier thing to do. And I remember thinking, maybe I just don't get it. Maybe something is wrong with me. Maybe I'm just not smart enough for this. After all, these people were making successful podcasts. Thousands of people were listening to them. So, it must be me. Eventually, I just stopped searching. Not because I didn't want to learn. It wasn't because I lacked interest. It was because learning had become discouraging. I felt overwhelmed. I felt like I was in a foreign country and not being able to speak the language. Have you ever felt that way? Like everyone else received the instruction manual and somehow you missed it? I remember thinking, maybe finances just aren't my thing. I know, I told you I had banking background. But over time, I realized something. The problem wasn't that I couldn't learn. The problem wasn't me. The problem was that I kept trying to join the conversation in the middle. Instead of finding someone or something willing to start at the beginning, there was a huge gap between knowing nothing and understanding the conversations everyone else seemed to be having. That's when something changed for me. I stopped looking for experts who assumed I already knew everything, and instead, I began collecting little pieces of knowledge wherever I could find them. One person explained budgeting in a way that finally made sense. Someone else helped me understand credit, very slowly, but I got it at the end. Another resource explained banking, little by little. Those pieces start coming together. But then I realized something else. Finding those pieces should not have been that hard. I kept thinking, there has to be an easier place for someone to begin. And that's when I made a decision. If it is difficult for me, it was probably difficult for thousands of other people too. So instead of waiting for someone else to create that place, I decided to become that person. The person I had been searching for. Someone willing to start at the beginning. Someone who is willing to explain financial concepts in plain language. And someone who believes there is no shame in asking basic questions. And that's the promise I want to make you today. Here on Life Happens, Money Matters, you will never be expected to know more than you know today. We'll start where you are, we will move at your pace, and together we'll take one step at a time. Because that's exactly why American Financial Pathways and this podcast exist. So what does that mean for you? It means you don't have to learn everything all at once. It means you don't have to watch 100 videos in one weekend to get the point. It means you don't have to feel overwhelmed before you even begin. Instead, we'll simply take the next step, together. So, now that you know how American Financial Pathways began, let me show you what this vision looked like and how we got here. It began with one simple question: where do I start? And it grew into a much bigger mission: to become the guide I wish I had when I first started learning about money. And once I understood that, everything else started falling into place. Not just the podcast or the guidebooks, but the entire journey I wanted to create for others. Let me show you what I mean. Earlier in this episode, I mentioned something about hiking. I said that whenever I go hiking, I don't just step into a trail. I first want to see a map. Know where the trail begins and where it ends. What to expect along the way. Because once I understand the path, I know how to prepare for the journey. So, let's unfold the map together. Let me show you the pathway we've been walking towards all along. And that's exactly how I design American Financial Pathways. Not as a destination, but as a pathway with resources waiting for you along the way. Each one has a purpose. Each one is there when you need it. And together, they help make the journey a little easier. This podcast, for example, is like your first stop along the trail. Think of it as the water station. You stop, you refresh, you gain enough encouragement and understanding to take the next stretch of journey. You don't have to drink the entire river today. You simply take what you need and keep walking. As you continue along the pathway, you'll begin seeing our companion guidebooks. Think of them like the trail map you tucked into your backpack. When you're unsure which direction to take, just pull it out. Make a few notes. Remind yourself where you are. And then, confidently continue your journey. And along every beautiful trail, there are places where you stop, look around, take in the view. Realize just how far you've already come and how much longer you have to go. That's how I think about our website. It's the place where you can pause, look ahead at what's coming, look back at everything you've already accomplished, discover new resources, find practical tools, and always know where you are on your financial journey. And that's what American Financial Pathway has always been about. Not giving you all the answers all at once, but making sure that wherever you are on the journey, your next step is never far away. And speaking of next steps, before we wrap up today's episode, I'd like to leave you with one simple step. Today, I don't want you to calculate anything, don't want you to build a budget. And you don't have to memorize any financial terms. And if you don't want to, that's fine, don't look at your credit. I simply want you to do one thing. Take your next step. And only you know what that step is from where you are. Maybe it's listening to another episode. Or it is checking your credit. Maybe it's just changing one spending habit. Or maybe it's visiting our website to see the pathways we've talked about today. Or maybe it's just finally asking that financial question you've been so afraid to ask. Whatever it is, don't worry about the entire journey. Just take the next step. Because every hike, no matter how long, is completed exactly the same way, one step at a time. And your financial journey is no different. Thank you for spending a part of your day with me today. If today's episode encouraged you or made you think differently about finances, I hope you'll subscribe, leave a review, or share this episode with someone who could benefit from hearing it. And if you're looking for guidance on your own financial journey, or simply need someone to help you understand your next step, visit us on our website at AmericanFinancialPathways.com. Until next time, I'm Adele Williams, and remember, it is when life happens, money matters.